Hey, Chappy here, having a cuppa at the campsite. So I thought it was a good opportunity to maybe just put a little vlog together based on some of the stuff I use when I'm travelling. I'm sort of living long term off my motorbike as I get around. I'd done Australia and New Zealand previously, and that was almost a year doing that. And now I've been out again for 6 months. So I've got a bit of experience building up as to some of the comforts you need when you're travelling. Certainly some of the clutter you don't need. And even that you learn as you go along the way sometimes and make adjustments as you travel. But I thought it was a good opportunity just to take you through while I'm sitting here at a nice campsite at Franz Josef and run you through some of the things that I do and use and the setup that I have while I'm having a nice cup of tea. So what I'll do first up is just show you my setup here because it's a little bit different. When I got to this camp it was pouring with rain. I hope you can see in the background there. Maybe not, the clouds have rolled in a bit, but you get a beautiful view up to the snow on the mountains up behind Franz Josef there. And this campsite is one that it's all on nice crushed stone. So when I said about a tent, it was up to me to work out, and you have to get a little bit Kiwi ingenuity, as we call it in New Zealand. So I just had to move some of the boulders and use those for my guy ropes and set myself up, and it's worked out really well. But having done that, you need some little things like down here. I always carry these nice little Velcro straps that have got a little buckle on the end of them, and you can use them for all sorts of things. So that was perfect for straddling the rock and attaching it as a guy rope. The other thing I used, and I always travel with these, and one of my tips for this particular vlog is always have some shock cord on you, and it looped up into reasonable length pieces, and I've used that around the other sides of the tent here, as you'll see, to get the stretch on the guy ropes over to those rocks. So a little thing like that, if you got to the site and you weren't prepared for that, if you didn't have some shock cord, maybe some Velcro stays like that, you might have struggled to put your tent up. So worth doing that. The other thing I've learned when I went around Australia, I just booked unpowered sites. They're always cost you a little bit less when you're traveling long term. It saves you a bit of money, but it's like a couple of bucks difference in most campsites. It's not a big deal. So I decided this time around, screw it, I'm going to actually travel with a power cord. And I also learnt from my travels that the powered sites are in better positions. The unpowered sites are always way at the back. You end up with a big long walk to get to the facilities sometimes. So for a few bucks extra, pay for a powered site and then hook yourself up. See my cords here, and the beauty of this little tent that I've just recently changed my tent for this trip, but it's got a power cord access into the tent on the side there that zips up, so you're not going to get any mozzies coming in at night. Talk about the tent a little bit actually just now as well, because what I found was when I first left on this trip, I'm a big stickler for having a tent you can stand up in. At my age, I don't want to be crawling around in a little tent. It's not good for your back. But I realised once I set off on this part of the trip where I'm doing a lot of riding days, and it's really all about the riding now going along, the tent I had was too big. It was just extra weight. The airbed I had was a single XL, so a slightly bigger one and a more durable one of the Coleman ones, and it was too heavy. So I got to a little town called Hokitika and I thought, screw it, I'm done with this. I posted that back to friends I have where I'll end up later on in the trip, and I bought this one, and you know what, I'm pretty pleased with it. It was 150 bucks. The good thing about this tent is, and I'll see if you can see inside there, it's got opening at the far side with a vestibule area there, so you can put some gear out of the weather in there. It's full mesh all around. It's wide enough that I can get this slightly smaller airbed in there and get all my gear down the side, which means I don't need to peg the tent down. It's not blown away with all that in there. And then you've got room out front to put things like your boots and shoes and so forth. So 150 bucks, it weighs 2.5 kilos. I always swap out the pegs and buy those lighter pegs because, again, another little tip, these sort of tents come with just basic steel pegs. They're heavy. Throw those away. Treat yourself to those nice hexagonal lightweight aluminium pegs, and they're easy to use and it just lightens your overall load. So that would be tip number, what have we got? The shock cords 1, power cord 2, tent 3. We'll call that tip number 4. Another couple of things that you might notice as we get around here, I have two of these bags the same size. That's my pantry. So in there is all my dry good foodstuffs, my spices, my salt, my oil spray, and I always carry just enough for, say, two days of emergency food. If I end up somewhere where I can't buy food, or I've camped overnight in a forestry area or something like that, I always carry some rice, a couple of tins of maybe salmon, something like that. So push comes to shove, you can always have a makeshift meal. Always carry coffee, of course. That's the main thing in the morning, and carry some teas and the like. The other blue bags down the far end there, that's where the power cord for the tent goes. And both those, I'll show you where I put those on the bike shortly. Another little invention here. This one, not for the ladies so much as the men. And I'll let you use your imagination here, but that is very necessary when you get to my age and you're travelling around and you don't want to be getting up in the middle of the night and going to the loo and waking everyone up when you're doing it and everything. So that looks like your oil funnel for the bike. That was water on it, by the way. And that combination of two things is your ensuite. I'll let your imagination work as to how that's used, and not embarrassed to say that makes camping a lot more comfortable to have your own ensuite. So for a $2.50 plastic funnel, I'll let you determine what size funnel you need. that's a buyer choice, preference, I should say, but that's just a good little thing, you know. Now for the bike, you always got to have a cover. Okay, and with the bike and the cover, the reason behind the cover is it's not as such for weather protection, but obviously it's going to do that. It's all about actually out of sight, out of mind. So if it's under a cover, no one knows what sort of bike it is, what gear you've got on it or anything like that. And it's just a good tip that, in fact, it was Kinga from On Her Bike that gave me that when I met up with her when I was travelling, bumped into them at Nearly Beach, and she gave me some tips as a novice. I just started off on this long haul motorbike riding, and it was her that said, put a cover on your bike. It's out of sight, it's out of mind, and it just has been worthwhile, and I've always done that. The mistake I made first trip was I bought a cover that was too heavy. So get yourself a lightweight one. I'm not sponsored by anyone, so if I give you a recommendation, it's only because I like the product. But you can see on that one, it's an Oxford cover. When I bought it, it's like 45 bucks or something. I thought, shit, this thing's too light, it's not going to do bugger all. But it actually does, keeps the water off the bike. I've been using this one for a fair bit. It'll probably be throwaway by the time I'm finished. But the beauty of that cover is that it is lightweight. It packs up nice and small. You can scrunch it down. Just give me 2 seconds and I will get the bike cover off. Okay, rolling with the tips. When you buy these covers, they come with just a plastic sort of, you could say a carry bag, but it'll break in no time at all. So make sure you get yourself a good spare sleeping bag stuff sack, not too big. And the beauty of that is you can just cram that cover in there, and that will just scrunch away on one of the panniers or under the cargo net, depending on how much room you've got left. So with the bike itself, a couple of little things I do that probably you may not have seen before. So get yourself a little drink neoprene cooler, little tube cooler. You cut 2 slots in it. Velcro belt goes around, and the beauty of that is, aside from the fact that you've got something to put your beer in at night to keep it cold, you've also got yourself somewhere where you can put your glasses. So when I stop to fuel up, if I've got my riding glasses on, I can just put them in there. The other little tip, always have yourself an old flannel or Microsoft cloth, a small one, and I always wet that before I ride, and that sits in there as well. And so if I get any bugs on the screen while I'm riding, I can just wipe them off with that without damaging the visor. Nice soft cloth, and I'm good to carry on. On this bike, I've set up a little map. I know you got GPSs and all that sort of stuff, but I'm old school. I'm not a fan of you know, having to look down and concentrate on a GPS too much. I like to just have I'll fold it to where I'm travelling on this particular section. So my next section is Franz Joseph. I'll be going down through to Haast and down through to Lake Hara. So it just gives me, I can just refer to it when I'm stopped and make sure I'm on track to where I'm headed. So I like to have that. My leggings are up there. So in the case of a downpour, I can get those off, and again, using that stretch cord so that you can put them on the bike in any manner of positions and places. Having said that, one good thing about the NT09 is that flare on the tank there is perfect for just pushing the weather around you. I rode this down in some pretty wet conditions, and your jeans don't even get terribly wet at all. Pushes around. Other little tip, one of these. It's a combination, I don't know if you can see there, it's a combination lock. Because the helmet sometimes is something when you've set up camp and that, you don't want to leave it in your tent. It's an expensive helmet, you want to be able to lock it away. So I like having that there. And also when I stop for gas, I can just clip it on there and it's all done. The proverbial piece of sheepskin, you may laugh, but it actually makes for a very comfortable seat. And particularly again when you're doing longer riding and the likes, it just makes it enjoyable. Takes a bit of the strain out of the seating position. It can get wet, doesn't matter, sheep get wet, it doesn't seem to worry them, so you can just basically brush that water off it and it will dry very quickly. So you can buy those from most sheepskin shops, just pieces, and I just put some elastic stretch under it, roughly cut it the shape and stretch it over. You can do it yourself, it doesn't require going and getting an upholsterer to do that. Sip of the tea. So lots of good tips I hope for you, and if they're not, well, take what you want, leave what you don't. Okay, that is my kitchen. I don't know where I got that bag. I think it was what brand is it? Antler. It's an Antler bag. I've had it for ages. It's really good quality. It's lasted the test of time. When I rode around Australia, that actually mounted on top of one of the panniers. This time round, it can go inside the hard panniers. But the beauty of this is you've got everything you need to carry your kitchen, and you'll think back to your own kitchen at home and all the clutter and rubbish you've got in there, where this will do. So one of the nice things here is just a couple of things you might not have thought about. You need to get a pot holder. You can get those from most outdoor camping stores, and that way you can pick up any of your pots for your boiling your water. This one does my water for boiling a cup of tea and making a coffee in the morning. The other thing that you might not have thought about is that. So you buy one of those little tea strainers, but it's perfect. It's like a makeshift on-the-go coffee filter. You can put your 2-3 scoops of coffee in there, put it on top of your cup, and then pour your hot water through it, and voila, you've got yourself a nice filtered coffee without travelling with a bulky filter as such. Other thing in there is, whoops, dropped it. Can't break it, it's plastic. These are great sporks or foons or whatever you want to call them, but you've basically got a knife cutting edge on one side of there. You've got the fork and you've got the spoon. Jack of all trades, and saves from carrying too much other stuff. Other things you sometimes don't think about is just a little stirring pot, and cut it down. Make sure that everything's going to fit in there nice. So for the sake of just cutting a wooden spoon down, I do the same with a fish slice. Just cut it down so it'll fit into your gear and not be too bulky. Always remember some tongs so you can use the barbecue in most places you go to. Got a couple of dogs next door. They've just come home, so they're just a bit of barking going on there. Always carry one of those, nice little canister, so that'll do me for a fair amount of time, and I usually have a little backup one as well. It sits there, and then in here is everything you need by way of pots, pans. I'm going to bring that down a little bit. Pots, pans. So again, I love those because it's a bowl, it's a plate. It can be a cup if it had to be. I do carry a small plate. But with this little set from Kathmandu, I think it was, you get your fry pan, and it works well. I don't know what they are, but they don't mark up too much. They actually hold the heat really well. Decent sized billy, smaller billy, and you know, it all stacks so you can get everything in. And then I just made sure that it would also stack into, if I get it around the right way, it all just stacks together. So that there is the kitchen. Tucks away nice and compact and neat. It's got everything you need. A lot of the camps now, they have everything, but if you do end up doing a free camp one night or staying somewhere a bit more rugged, you can be self-sufficient with all of that. Alright, that's probably just about getting to most of the things. Decent sized water bottle. Buy yourself some of these $4 whatever brass clips, so you clip it on. You might be clipping it under the shade of a tree to keep it cool. You might be putting it on the back on your load. I clip it up so it can't come off, and I don't ever fill it up completely on the ride. It's just too bloody heavy. The other thing that's a must is this setup. So you've heard me talk about these before, but don't waste your money on cheap brands. Just get Helinox. They are the best quality outdoor gear you can get. I've had this now for nearing on 2 years. Hasn't broken, it's solid as. The material stayed all good, no rips, no tears. It's like it was new. You can actually Velcro the bag it comes in. You can make that into a pillow and Velcro it up there, which is really clever thinking. And the other thing I do is I just get these little stools. So if you're sitting out having a read of your Jack Reacher novel, you can feet up and relax. And it just makes a difference. So again, when you're long-term travelling, there's not a lot of weight in these. I usually put them up on top of the cargo net once I've loaded everything up. I'll do another vlog with the bike all fully loaded on one of the sections that I'm doing, and that way you can see how it all comes together. But yeah, hopefully there's some things there you might not have thought of. Other little thing too is make sure you carry a little picnic blanket in there, and underneath I've got a little cheap tarp that I've cut to the right size. And yeah, there you have it. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon, your knees in the breeze, and think things through. Be prepared to adjust, and on the trip, like I had to when I ditched one tent for another, make sacrifices if it's affecting the comfort of the ride and the performance of the ride. Be prepared to make changes. Till next time, knees in the breeze, Chappy over and out.